Alright, today I'm going to be showing you guys 50 advanced tips, 5 for every single mechanic, and also some bonus tips along the way. And if you guys have some tips that I didn't cover, you can also put them in the comments. We're going to be doing wall climbing here. So the first advanced tip I have is basically whenever you're on the wall over here, you want to have your hand and you want to be moving at like sideways. So like you're moving side to side a lot. Like, because if you're just going straight down, you can get some, but it might be hard to stay near the wall. Moving sideways helps a lot, and I'll show it another spot. And this tip will also be in the tutorial later on, because when you're moving at an angle, like across the side like this, it really does help you stick a lot. So like right here, I'll give you an example kind of. So if I'm trying to like pinch climb this wall, if I keep moving side to side, I kind of stick to the wall, see? If I keep throwing myself side to side with that, I stick to the wall more than if I were to try to just go up like this, you know? So number 2 would be mainly for speed. What I do that lets me wall climb faster than some others is I'll fully extend my arm out as I can upwards and fully push down. So I did that kind of slow, but like fully extend, fully push down. And just keep going back and forth like that. So like this kind of looks like a circling motion all together, but that's just because I'm moving myself to the side along with going as high as I possibly can with my arms stretched out. So like kind of like that. So tip number 3 is mainly for consistency. You want to play around with walls a lot, because the better you get to know the wall, the easier it'll be to like maneuver around it. The more you play on walls is just the easier it'll get. Tip number 4 that I have is you can literally wall climb pretty much anywhere there's an indent. So like right here you can see there's kind of like barely indent at all. But as long as you're moving that side to side, you can go all the way up. There's some spots where it's even like barely any crease at all, kind of like right here. And you can still, you know, wall climb up if your movements are, you know, like angled enough so that you can stick to the wall longer. See, all the way up just from barely any crease at all. Tip number 5 is pretty much just a general one. You definitely want to have some force to your movements. So like if you're hitting too slow, you're gonna like fall off the wall. Your hand's just gonna slide down. And if you're hitting too hard, you might not get anywhere. It's really hard to control your movements if you're hitting really hard. You just want to find like a nice balance. This corner right here by stump is also a great place to practice wall climbing because of how, you know, how much of a corner it is. But for wall running, we're also mainly going to stick over here. Wall running is pretty much just running on these little slants here. You want to have the motion of your hand going down with these slants at the same angle. It's because if you have them too far vertical, you're going to fall off the wall. Like this, you know, if you have them too far slanted, you're just not even going to hit the wall. As much as you can match this angle, that's the best that you want to do, because see, you can hit the wall and go even farther into it. That's how people wall run the whole map. You can pretty much just infinitely stay on the wall as long as you're hitting down at that angle. You'll be fine. That's why you have to be looking at your hand. You can't just do one motion over and over. You got to be looking at the wall and matching the angle. And eventually, as you play more, you won't have to be looking at your hand. But you really don't have to do that big of movements. You can do a bunch of small little movements and get across the wall pretty fine. That's kind of what the basis of like Lucio running was. You kind of use 2 hands to go up at the same time, kind of like this. You know, you want to keep doing as many hits as you can with as much like force as possible once you're getting good at wall running. So if I'm just doing big swings like this, that's like safe and all, but you're not going to be going very fast. So if you're doing bunches of small hits like this too, yeah, you can get stuck a lot and you're not going very fast either. So you want to kind of find like a meeting point between those two. So something like this would be good. Like, I'm not really trying to go my fastest, I'm just trying to kind of slow it down to show you guys, but going as fast as you can so you can keep that maximum momentum constantly going. A lot of people just use their arm to run, which you're missing out on a lot of like force that you could be using with your wrist. So like right now I'll barely use my arm. You can literally only using my wrist and you can travel like the entire wall. Like your wrist is like, you can move a lot with your wrist with a lot less energy and a lot less force. So you want to kind of have like a combination of both. For an example, I'll move my arm past and I'll kind of flick my wrist as well. So like this is just moving my arm, this is moving my arm while flicking my wrist. I kind of get like jolted towards the wall more because my arm is extending as far as it can faster. Alright, so next up is ground. I'm right here for now. Ground seems pretty simple, but it is a little tricky to get as fast as you possibly can. Most people either like run like this, or you'll see pros kind of doing something like this. That's kind of like a slow version, but also if it looks like I'm staring into the distance, that's because I'm playing on Quest 2 right now, and I have my PCVR account in here with me so I can have like a camera to look at. I don't know where the camera is, I'm just looking to where I think the camera is. But yeah, I'm playing all this on Quest 2, so let me just kind of get the motion down for you. So you extend your arms out, you want to have this one here, and you're basically pulling it across as far as your arm can stretch. So you're pulling it across, using this arm and then pulling it across. So you're basically just pulling yourself all the way across. The logic behind that is there is not technically a speed cap. There's a maximum amount of force that you can get off of one hit. So like, or speed. So like if I hit off of this, there's a maximum amount of speed that I can get off of that. But when your hand is touching this ground, there's no maximum speed because you're in contact with the ground. So as fast as your arm can move, as fast as your controller can move in real life, that's how fast you'll move. So as long as you're sticking to the ground, then you can go as pretty much as fast as you want. That's why when you see Chidus using hertz like 30 hertz, it makes them really sticky. So they can go really fast on ground because they're basically never leaving the ground. Also, by the way, the lowest hertz you can go to not get banned is 60. So tip number 2 is kind of free competitive. For you, you might be thinking it's always pointless to learn ground, but it really does help because any little bit of speed that you can get to be faster than a lava monkey, if you're faster than a lava monkey, they're not going to catch you at least for a really long time because you're outrunning them. And tip 3 is kind of what I showed on the wall running portion. Flicking your wrists helps an insane amount. Like I can flick my wrist like this and get that much force, like with barely moving my arm at all. Here, like this is me not even moving my arm. Like here, I'll just kind of show you. Like you can go pretty fast. Like that's literally me only moving my wrist. I'll kind of show it in first person, and you can kind of like go backwards too. Like obviously that's not gonna outrun anyone, but that's just showing how much of an impact your wrist has. So if you can keep going, kind of flick your wrist as you're moving your arm, you can go much faster than if you were just going along like this without moving your wrist. Tip 4, I'd say, is just kind of learn the terrain because there's tons of hills, tons of slopes, tons of divots. So one thing that I do for when there's a slope, like I'll go over here, you definitely want to reach down farther because if not, you're going to be stuck up here not even moving. So like if you're going down, it's much slower if you go like this, right, and eventually hit the ground than it is to go like this, you know, because you're pulling yourself downwards. Every once in a while, you definitely need to look back at where the lava monkey is because there's a small chance you're going to be faster than them. So you need to be looking back and assessing when do you need to make a turn, when do you need to start going up a tree or going up a wall, because if you're running a one straight line, there's a very high chance you're just going to get tagged. Alright, so next up is branches. First tip you can take or you can kind of ignore it. Also guys, we're literally so close to 500,000 subscribers. Personally, I don't take the time to, you know, learn that many routes because it's just not fun to me to spend like 30 minutes trying to memorize a route and then try to use that route in game. It might be a little beneficial if you can get a really good route going, but for me it's just like eventually they're going to learn what the route is and cut you off. Learning routes is good, but when I learn routes, it's typically small routes that I can segment together. So if there's a lava monkey in my path, I know where to go and I can take a different route. So for example, one route I kind of do is I go up this lamppost and go here, and go all the way up, right? But if there was a lava monkey, say, waiting for me up here, like say I got to this right here and I saw a lava monkey, I wouldn't want to be kind of stuck here and just kind of hit off and go into the air and then get tagged, you know? Okay, so my game actually ended up crashing, but it's a new day now. And low-key, I don't remember what tip I was on. So if I missed one or two for this section, that is my bad. And I saw a lava monkey up there. I don't want to be able to jump to this branch and know that there's a tree right here, there's a branch right here that I can hit off and jump to and keep going. And then maybe get around them and come back up here. Like saying I'm just running through here and I'm gonna head over here, but there's a lava monkey over here. Like I want to know my surroundings. So oh, there's a branch right here, let me just jump to this one, and now I basically escaped him rather than, you know, just seeing a lava monkey there and just turning around and either running into the lava monkey that's chasing you or just heading off and not knowing there's a branch here so you miss it. It's just really important to know your surroundings and know where to go. So I'd recommend just going down here and playing around a little bit, making turns you don't usually make, and trying to find out where all the branches are. So kind of a weird tip that I have for branching is you just got to recognize that these branches are pretty thick. So if you're trying to scale a tree like how I kind of did over here and trying to put your hand around it, you got to recognize that you're going to have to put your hand a lot higher than where you can see, because when you look up, all you see is the bottom of the branch, so you gotta know, you gotta put your hand all the way on top. Alright, so next up is slippery walls. Alright, so a little backstory. When slippery walls first came out, everyone pretty much thought they were gonna be impossible to climb on. And the reason why it got added in the first place is because everyone used to be climbing out of the map. And these red walls are the exact same material as the ice in mountains, which is why when you hit off of it you get kind of a boost, because if you hit off the ice in mountains you do go farther than you would if you were to just hit like a normal wall. So slippery walls are pretty advanced. I'll give some like basic tips for them and then probably like a more advanced tip after. But for slippery walls, you want to hit the wall very hard and very fast. If you hit it slowly or weakly, you're not really gonna go anywhere. You're just kind of stuck on it. So you gotta like hit it. You gotta do big swings that are hard and fast, or you can do a bunch of small ones, kind of like Lucio running. But I found it more helpful and easier to do bigger and hard swings. So like if I do big swings like this, like get through, stay on the wall and everything. If I do a bunch of small hits like this, it also works, but I feel like it uses more energy in it. But it really just depends on what your preference is. So tip 2 it'd be how to turn around on slippery walls. Basically, you just turn around and you can either wait like this. Can't wait too long because then you'll fall. You basically just want to wait till you slide and stop, and then start hitting again. It's pretty simple, but it does take a little bit of practice. So tip 3 would be, before you get on slippery walls, I'd recommend building up a lot of speed on normal walls before you get to it, because it helps a lot with getting started on the walls and getting that momentum that you need. If you start with no momentum, kind of like this, it's much harder to get going. But if you start with momentum like this, it's much easier. So tip 4 of slippery walls, if you're going to use them, you gotta know like what to do with them, because if you just hit off, you're like pretty much gonna get tagged because everyone's just waiting for you to hop off the wall. So you can either slip stop off, which I will show in a second, or you can either do that like kind of turnaround thing I showed and just go back down to the wall, or you can just find like a good jump off point kind of like this and keep going on the wall. Yeah, so tip 5 would be how to slip slap. And if you're gonna use slippery walls, it helps slippery walls so much more. Like that's like the main feature of slippery walls right now. You pretty much get to the normal wall, you want to use your left hand or whatever side you're going through, and you want to hit down and then use this other hand to slap that wall at the same time. I'll do it slowly just to kind of show you. And I can go like all the way over here, rather than if I were to just hit off normally from up here, I'd only get to here. Like there's so many different spots you can use it around the map. I'll show a few, but like one that I use a lot is this. And I slip slap to this branch and I keep going. You're basically just hitting this wall down, and at the same time you're hitting the side of the wall. So you can kind of do it different ways. You can do it like backwards and kind of push off that way with this hand like this, and you like a kind of spin. Whenever I slip slap, I usually spin as I'm doing it, just because I can get more force with my right arm that I'm hitting the red wall, which is the whole reason why you get that boost, because you're slapping the red wall. So kind of like this, and then you can keep going. But and you can pretty much do it anywhere, but there's like some good spots. Just a bonus tip for slippery walls real quick. You can do a slip slap here, and you want to keep that momentum while you're doing the slip slap. That'll make you go farther. So if I go like this, I can get pretty much to the top of the tree over here. But if I were to kind of stay stagnant, like right here, it would go pretty much just like a little shorter. Kind of like that. Alright, so I switched to this format just so you can see my hands a little bit better. But next up is verticaling. It's called verting, verticaling, whatever you want to call it. This, I don't even feel like deserves a name. It's literally just upwards wall running. It got a name like 2 years after people have already been doing it. Literally, it's wall running, but you're just going upwards. So you just push down with the wall, kind of like I was showing over there. You literally just push down with the angle of the wall. So you want to be looking at your hand. Just keep pushing down with the angle of the wall, and eventually you'll keep going up. Just keep doing with slippery walls and you just get to red walls. And so the first tip for it is, I'd say, is moving forward while you're going up. Like I said earlier, when you're moving at an angle, you kind of stick more to the wall, and the wall is curved, so you're going to be sticking on the wall. If you're going straight up, it might be harder to stick to the wall, but like if you're trying to get like good at it, eventually you'll probably start going straight up, because that's how you'll get the most vertical speed. The main thing is to be pushing at the angle of the wall. That way you're throwing yourself into the wall like that and not going straight up. That way you're not going out of the wall like that. and then eventually falling away from the wall. And again, another tip is really just practice. Honestly, practice is pretty much the only way to get better at gorilla tag. There's new movement, and the more you get familiar with it, again, the easier things will get. And the more you get familiar with these walls, the more you'll know how to push down on certain spots and what to do. Don't do what I was doing. I was just going slow on purpose, but don't like this and keep waiting. Eventually you lose momentum and it get harder to go up. If you just keep going up, kind of like this, it's easier to stick to the wall because you're keeping that momentum that's going inwards to the wall like that. If you stop, then that's eventually you're gonna hit the wall and it's gonna go away. So another tip I'd say specifically for comp is you do not want to be using this when there's like 4 lava monkeys after you, because the 4th boost is they still have a lot of lava boost. So if you're trying to vert away from them, they can pretty much just catch up to you very quickly because you're gonna be going that wall and going up, or they could just go and tag you like that. So like you could either go forward like I said and kind of go over them, or you could just do it for a little bit, like act like you're going up and they'll jump for you and you can duck down and keep running away. So I'll kind of show you in a pub real quick. So he tries to go with the wall and follow me. He's not the best. Same thing, but yeah, this is just a public lobby, so they're not gonna be the best. You can kind of go up to and then push down forward if they're following you, because this guy's trying to cut me off, so that's why I can go backwards. And the last tip I probably have for verting is you can pretty much use it to just like wall climb with one hand. So if you're going up and hit backwards and go to a different wall and hit back here. So if you're on like this corner here, you kind of hit back and forth as you're going up, which also helps. It's definitely not as fast, but it can probably prepare you for normal verting. So next up we're going to be doing tagging. I took off my cosmetics and changed my name because I'm going to go into a public lobby to kind of demonstrate it for you. But first of all, one of the most important things for tagging is your audio. Ironically, I just lost my game audio, so I can't hear footsteps, but that is pretty important. Another thing, mainly for public lobbies, is monkeys like these usually mess up eventually. They'll probably go for like a second and then fall and get tagged. So just waiting to see where they'll go is pretty helpful since they just haven't practiced much. But in competitive scenes, you definitely just don't want to just sit there and watch them. You definitely want to have like a duo that you're tagging with. Probably have one guy chase them and one guy try to get the cutoff, which leads into tip 3, which is like the most important thing about tagging is getting a cutoff. In public lobbies, people usually don't look behind them, so you can just kind of try to see where they're going and cut them off. That's how you can get the most tags, and that's what I did a lot when I went for my 1,000 tags video. But so like for example, this guy is going to the bouncy house over here. So I can just get to him first and tag him. Like here, this guy is going to the wall, so I can just go over here, get to it before him, and just wait and tag him. Tip 4 would probably be like trying to stay out of sight, because if they know you're behind them or they see you like in front of them about to tag them, and then they're gonna turn around and you're not gonna be able to get the cutoff that you were trying to get. So staying above people helps a lot. Staying above people helps because this is it's like a circle. Eventually they're gonna run into a wall or run into a tree and they're gonna have to go up. Tip number 5, this is a really big one too, but it's mainly for competitive. If you're not working together, then pretty much you just don't have a teammate, because everyone's just gonna be chasing one guy just right behind him, and it's about as effective as if just one person was chasing him, because he can just run infinitely, and if no one's going for the cutoff, then he's not going to get tagged. Alright, so next up is ice. So ice is obviously the main part of this map, but it's also in forest with those red walls. So tip 1, which is pretty well known, you can kind of control yourself just by putting your hand out like this, controlling where you go. Pretty simple. But tip number 2 is, so this is kind of like slip slapping, but if you hit this ice and this ice at pretty much like close to the same time, you can go like far. So like just me hitting off of it normally, it go kind of that high. When me hitting both of them like kind of together, I'll go like a little bit higher, kind of like that. And you can also just use it on normal ground. And more like one thing that my friend showed me, you can kind of come like over here and like go down, and this would be a good spot to use it, and kind of shows how helpful having momentum is in like slip slapping, is kind of like going down here and then doing that, and you can go pretty high. And I'll kind of show you like a more extreme version of that. So I'm going to hit off that blue and hit off that light blue up there. I can go all the way up here. So momentum does help a lot. So tip 4 would probably be how to wall surf. Kind of hard for me to show that off right here because there's this obstacle course. But wall surfing, basically just have your arm right here out. If your hertz are higher, like 90, the higher hertz you have, the easier it is to wall surf. I'm on 72 right now, so it's not going to be the best. Also, I don't really have a good setup. So you can just keep your arm out like this. And if I had a higher hurt, I kind of like pick up and eventually start going up. And the more momentum you have, the better it is. So tip 5 for ice is pretty much when you're running, you always want to be moving like around. If you're going in one straight line, eventually lava monkeys gonna catch up to you. So alright, so these next 5 tips are gonna be for purely competitive stuff. Now, I'm gonna keep these tips pretty basic, as this is like just an advanced tutorial. and not like an in-depth competitive tutorial. But you basically always want to be like looking at your surroundings. Like whenever I play in comp lobbies, I usually have my sound off, and so I can't hear footsteps or anything, so I'm like always looking around, which even though I lose my sense of sound, it like kind of does help my eyes because I'm more paranoid and I'm looking around all the time, and I can spot people that sometimes I don't hear. Yeah, you might see some videos of people like running backwards and like staring their guys in the eye. It isn't practical, so they just kind of do it because it, you know, it looks cool, but you can't see where you're going and you're looking at your eye for way too long. If like literally if you're running and then a quick glance back helps a ton, which is something I mentioned with ground. Be hidden as possible. There's so many times in comp where say I'm chasing someone through here and I'm trying to cut them off, and either they see me and I didn't notice that they saw me, or they saw one of my teammates and they're gonna turn. I'll keep going and I'll just be ready to tag them as they come out, but they don't because they saw me and they're under here hidden. And so when you're under here hidden, you can kind of like literally go any direction. You're gonna have to go back, or you can turn here and start going up the tree, or you can turn here, start going up this tree. Yeah, and just like staying out of sight for as much as possible helps, because if they can't find you, you can eventually get to the other end of the map when they're still over there looking for you, and I'm all the way over here, and that creates a ton of distance, which leads into my next tip. Keep as much distance from you and the tagger as possible. It seems pretty simple and like straightforward, but there's like so many people that will just run and then they'll get tired, or they'll just wait for the guy to catch up, which can be fun if you're trying to like clip them or something. Even if there's no one on you, running like your hardest to get away from them, just as far as away, can help just to save, like, because even a few seconds in comp, sometimes that's what comes out of the match. Staying as far away from them as possible, and you definitely want to be also looking out to make sure there's nobody cutting you off. Tip 5, I would say pretty much just analyze your opponents, because if they're just doing basic routes, like eventually they're going to get into that same position again later in the match, and if you saw them do that route before, then you can just be waiting there ready for them to cut off. Like for example, if I did this several times in a match and got up, they might see me going for that lamppost and go up here to stop me. Yeah, but there's been lots of times where people just do the same thing over and over, and you can eventually just predict them very well. So I'll also go into a public lobby to show this. But for running, one of the main things is you gotta be like unpredictable when you're running, because again, if people find your routes or see you in the same route over and over, you're gonna get tired, you're gonna get predicted. So that kind of goes down to what I said earlier about branching. Do not do the same route over and over again. Another tip for running is pretty much just to know who's tagging. Like for example, if like one of these guys are chasing me, like I don't really have to try that hard. I can kind of just like run wherever. But if I know someone's got that like really long arms and they can like reach for me, I don't want to be doing like really like tight jukes, like going like this and like turning right here, because they can just reach out and tag me. But if they got like shorter arms, then you can do like lots of tighter jukes. And tip 3, this is like really important just for anything. Every game has ping, which is ping is the amount of time it takes for whatever you do in a game. Like if I move my arm here, the action to travel to the server. So for example, say if I was a lava monkey and I tagged this guy, my ping was like 50 ms, which is like a pretty average ping, which means 50 milliseconds. If I tag him, it's going to take 50 milliseconds for that tag to register with the actual game. And then it also matters what his ping is. So if his ping is like, say like 300 ms, which is really high because it's 300 milliseconds, that's a third of a second, then I'm going to tag him, and on his screen he won't get tagged for that 50 milliseconds plus his ping, which is 300, so over a third of a second. Which is why sometimes you see people getting tagged from very far away because they have really bad ping. Why that's important in running is because you have to take that into account when you're running. Like for example, if I'm running away from a lava monkey, I wanna like basically react early. So if I see him here, like I know he's a lot closer to me, so I wanna like try to juke him or do something a lot earlier than it would seem. So tip 4 I have is when there's like a smaller round of lava monkeys, they'll have a lot higher boost because there's only 2 of them. When that happens, you want to stick to like kind of branches and like sharp turns, because whenever they hit, they'll go a lot farther than you will, so you can get jukes on them much easier as long as you're not going in like a straight line. Whereas like to walls, they're a lot more straight and it's like one path, so they can catch up to you a lot easier. Once there's a lot of lava monkeys, you can do walls because they're faster than you, but the speed difference really isn't that much. And same thing for like ground. Again, the last tip I have for running, I think I said this before, but it's pretty much just like practice. Like get to know the area around you, so you're able to like make turns to branches and like make turns to trees and like know where you're going at all times, rather than just running in like a random direction that I don't know where anything is. Like for example, if someone is like bad at walls and they're just running from someone, if they get trapped in this corner, they're gonna get tagged pretty easily. But if you know where every tree is and you like get familiar with the map, like you can just like know like to run certain directions and like go to a tree and like use like a little route you have, or just do whatever. It just helps a ton if you know where everything is. And that doesn't really come easily by just trying to memorize everything. It comes easily when you're just playing the game and you like try new things and don't just use the same routes over and over, because you'll just build like a mental image in your mind of where everything is on the map, just like how you know your house really well. It's like that. And the last thing is, I can tell you guys on 100% fact, I wouldn't be anywhere I am skill level or success level or anything level without Jesus. He's the sole reason why I am where I am today and where my YouTube channel is where I am today. And he's just the whole reason for anything good that's in my life. And another thing is, if you're not improving or you're not having fun, don't try to force getting better on yourself. Like, this is just a game. The whole reason it's here is for you to have fun. If you're not having fun, then maybe your calling is for something else, or maybe God has plans for you to be somewhere else and be doing something different.